Welcome back to this third and final hour of session 14 of Hereticus. And so, Akalon and Sister Francesca have both been confined to quarters, for the moment at least, while something's going on elsewhere in the Tricon. But on this third day, after you've returned and you handed over your material to Trina, after you'd made copies, of course, Trina she enters Akalon's room first, and she is allowed inside, of course, by the stormtrooper standing there. And she
devoutly, she'll find him at the back of the room, using one of the thin pillows for his bed to prevent his knees from hurting as he's knelt down in prayer.
Did you hear the news, Akalon? The Inquisitor has returned to us.
I had not. It's even for one with my gifts, it's hard to hear the latest gossip when confined. So, and he's not actually opened his eyes yet at this point. He's still in prayer.
Point conceded. Point conceded. I imagine being confined to quarters is less than comfortable.
It allows for a degree of reflection, at the very least.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. You are no longer confined to quarters. The Inquisitor wishes to see you. Well, all of you, really.
At this point, Akalon does open his eyes and look at Trina. Does he see the image again?
Nope, he sees no one but Trina standing there.
That's bad. That's bad enough as it is. All right, and he stands up then. Immediately or in due time?
Immediately. Or rather, as soon as humanly possible.
Of course. Where will the rest of the of my team be?
Well, they spend most of the time while you've been confined in the training area, training close quarters, close combat. Yep.
Very good.
And I suggest you go find them and meet us all outside the what do they call that chamber? Something with an O. Omega chamber.
I was something with an O. It usually is the Omega chamber, because let's face it, that sounds suitably.
Yes. Ominous.
Yes.
Yes. So, yes, and I suggest you find them and go there immediately, or as soon as possible, anyway. And I'll go let Sister Francesca know that she's no longer confined to quarters. And she does so. She walks across the hall or wherever Sister Francesca's quarters are located, and she walks in. How does she find Sister Francesca? What's she doing?
Sister Francesca is sitting by her table with a small tool of some kind, carving a prayer into the shell, into the not into the shell, but into the casing, but into the actual tip of every individual bolter shell.
Kill the heretic and something on his
and the Trina.
No, she's literally just
one of them has actually Trina written on it.
No.
No, it's no names. She just carves in an imperial benediction on each and every bolter shell.
All right. She walks a step into Sister Francesca's room and says, "You are no longer confined to your quarters. The Inquisitor wishes to speak with you. All of you."
She gets on and leaves.
Okay. So, all of you eventually find yourselves standing in front of the Omega chamber.
I didn't get to trip him.
Well, so do you in fact attempt to trip?
Well, they're probably trying to do the moving around shooting, and she is trying to trip him during that.
Okay.
Well, I think we should have an opposed roll to see if she succeeds.
I think we should have an opposed. What do you suggest? Let's see.
What did he use to trip?
I don't think
I
we
think it
rolled
just
really.
happened.
Yeah.
Athletics? Agility, I mean.
Athletics?
Yeah, we
Athletics?
can go with that. Or yeah. Weapon skill might also be appropriate.
Yeah, but she's using her leg, not a weapon.
No, but it's still the skill you choose for melee combat. But let's see opposed athletics tests.
Agility.
Agility. No, I said athletics.
Dun dun dun.
No modifiers?
No, just opposed.
What now?
We both actually succeed somewhat.
Yeah, but Tim has a better success than you do. So you aren't quite successful, and it's clear that was what you attempted to do.
Yeah, when I guess that they were running around, and she really lined it up correctly. He almost tripped, but then jumped over or something like that.
Yeah, works. And this is unusual because it's really not what you've been training, that kind of judo-esque training. So yeah, Tim.
That was a surprising move.
When he looks at her, she's just grinning.
He looks at her and says, "Have you been seeing Trina?"
Maybe.
I'll take that as a yes.
Maybe.
Shall I inform her that you failed?
No, she can see it. She points up at the...
In that case, Tim gives her a salute up towards the camera.
And when he does that, she jumps him.
And I imagine that's when Akalon arrives to get you.
Yeah,
to
that's
go with him.
when shooting things became close combat.
Yes. Cool. Well, eventually you find yourself standing outside the Omega Chamber, and you are awaiting something. The doors don't open immediately. Eventually they do open, and you are all guided in. Well, Trina just starts walking in. She's been there before, so she knows what it's about. And do the rest of you follow her, or?
Well, they haven't really heard what the situation is in there, so I'm pretty sure Medea would have warned the ones she is walking with about the Inquisitor Dex's way of communicating at the moment.
Okay. So you're all aware that there's singing involved.
It's just, a thing to note. I got a little weirded out when I talked with her, because you're not really talking with her because she's singing at you through 20 roped people.
That's peculiar.
Yeah.
Is this something that Akalon would know about in terms of them being the 20 robed people being psychers? Would that click with him?
It would, but mostly because he knows about the warp nature of these items, one of which is embedded in her forehead. So I think it would make sense for Akalon to think, oh, psychers.
It sounds like a psychic choir.
Yes.
In fact, that's pretty much exactly what you've just said, John. It's pretty much what Akalon will say to them. So it sounds like a choir to me.
So that's a normal way of doing things?
It is on a ship, actually, on starships. It's normally, in order to communicate through the warp, to send messages literally across the warp. You do so by using psychic choirs because they combining their voices can make a much stronger psychic signal than one person could do. On the other hand, if one person on the other end then received this combined signal without disseminating it into a number of different people, that person's head would quite likely explode.
Yes.
So most major starships have a psychic choir on board, but they never actually leave the room in which they are located.
No.
So
And
what you're saying is that our Inquisitor is having reception problems.
Yes.
Yeah, also, as a side note to you, Rasmus and I, the largest and most famous psychic choir in the Imperium is the Astronomicon, which is basically a giant psychic lighthouse by which and in fact every ship in the Imperium navigates through the warp by.
Yes.
Without it, warp travel would be impossible, but...
And it is fueled by the souls of 1,000 unsanctioned psychers every day, the ones who are not strong enough to be what Akelon is.
Yes, they're fed to the Emperor to keep him alive and then used as the Astronomicon. Although, it's also speculated, and this is out of character and completely unrelated to what we're doing, but it's speculated that it's because of the Astronomicon and it's a massive psychic beacon that's why the Tyranids have invaded the Milky Way, because they're attracted to it like moths to a flame. But anyway,
All life is sacred. Humans is the best. Let's feed them to the Emperor. Whoa, 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 whoa! Am I the only one hearing the hypocrisy in this?
yes, no, but
No, but I expect hypocrisy of this setting.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just like every human is the best, but you're not a sanctioned psyker and you're actually too weak, so we don't want you. Fuck off. Go get eaten. Yeah, okay.
you're still serving a useful purpose to the Imperium by doing so.
Anyway, the doors open, Trina enters, and you've all been made aware of this strange thing going on inside, and Akelon does recognize the phenomenon as a psychic choir. But I imagine that you all do eventually enter the room, and you see these 20 figures standing around the bed in which lies your Inquisitor. And as you enter and you find somewhere to stand, the choir sings, "I'm pleased you could join me. My acolyte Trina has presented your case. She's provided me with the evidence you have found during your investigations, and I must say that I am both extremely impressed and quite worried. Impressed by your investigation and what you found. That in itself is no small feat. But I am worried about the possible consequences of this. And I am saddened as well by the innumerable lives that are doomed.
Francesca, when she says that, Francesca actually looks relieved. The others might notice that these past 3, maybe 4 days, I don't know how long it was, 3 or 4 days.
3 days.
3 days.
This is the third day.
All right, in her cell, seems to have done something to her demeanor.
Okay. How so? What do they see?
She is. She looks utterly determined.
Okay.
And she looks pitiless. There's no the last remnants of smiling, let's be, let's look for the good in all of humanity is gone. Humanity has proven itself to be rotten to the core and not worthy of the Emperor's light as far as she's concerned. She doesn't even trust the people she's in the room with at this point.
Okay.
Well, yes, her fellow acolytes, but that's about it. She doesn't trust the Inquisitor to actually be the Inquisitor, and she doesn't trust Trina at all.
Okay.
And she's quite
I'm so
happy
proud. Our little
She
girl
is-
has grown up.
she's quite happy to hear that innumerable lives are doomed, because at least the way she hears that means that yes, these damned heretics in that particular part of the hive are going to die.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I have commanded, or I have ordered several companies of inquisitorial stormtroopers to secure the sector of the mid-hive that you have been investigating. Every man, woman and child within that sector will be executed. There is no other way around it. We cannot risk the heresy within that sector to spread to the other sectors. We will at the same time investigate the other sectors thoroughly and with the determination of our blessed God Emperor to ensure that the heresy has indeed not spread to those other sectors. And this is necessary. Unfortunate, but necessary. And this is what you've joined my retinue for. It is dark work, but it is also necessary. And I thank you for your work and for what you have done.
We are honored to do your work and the Emperor's.
Fiat voluntas Dei Imperator.
Do you have anything to add at this point?
Only a question.
Yes?
Being brought here to be informed of this is reassuring, obviously. However, we, as she says and looks towards Achelon, we were relieved of duty and put in confinement in our quarters. Are we to return to our quarters and this confinement, and are we still relieved of duty?
No,
Or
you
are
are
we
not.
back on-
You are not relieved of duty. You are.
All right.
You are active members of my retinue once more.
Thank you. In that case, may I inquire what our next assignment will be, or is that to continue this investigation in neighboring sectors?
Your involvement with this particular investigation has come to an end.
Well,
Higher-ranking acolytes will deal with the remaining investigation in the neighboring sectors and deal with the parts of the upper spires that have also been involved in this, because the list you provided of Marcus's accomplices is quite extensive, and worryingly so. It reaches into the sector lord's household itself.
Indeed.
What I do want you to do is to well, for now you're free to do as you wish, but I do have a mission in mind for you. I'll need to confer with my fellow inquisitors first. We will gather another conclave and we will discuss the evidence you've provided, and as well as other other things that tie into this matter. But for now, you are free. You are no longer assigned to this investigation.
Well, in that case, Francesca bows and says, "In that case, I shall retire to the library. I have things I wish to study extensively."
All right. You're all free to go.
Well, she goes, and she is basically going to she's going to start digging into well, everything she can find on the various groups within the Inquisition, because she wants to. It's one thing for the Sisters of Battle to be an active supporting group for the Inquisition. That's nothing new. There are obviously numerous different sects within the Inquisition, and she wants to start learning more about them and their beliefs and their stances, because she has begun to realize, or she's realized that she has begun to develop her own opinions on how to resolve matters, and it is very clear to everyone probably that she is entirely satisfied with the outcome of this.
Okay. So that is what Sister Francesca does. What about the rest of you? What are you going to do now that you've been set free, for at least for the time being?
Well, Medea will yank at Akalon's sleeve. Not like, I'm gonna fucking pull you down to the ground, but just yoink, yoink.
Yes.
Will you come pray with me?
I think I will, yes.
For a second there, I thought his head exploded.
No,
What?
I have... He's shocked a little bit, and then... Well, he is, but only temporarily, and he's then very pleased. But he says, "I will." And though I do have business with Francesca once that is over, please do not feel pressured by time. Take whatever time you need for this.
Okay.
And yes, it will go with her to praise.
Okay. So you two go to pray in the chapel, I imagine. What about Tim? What does Tim do?
That's a good question. So bad at having time to
Go and kill Trina.
I think.
I imagine that when the others have left the room, Tim is just standing there, not really knowing what to do with himself. The Inquisitor and the 20 robed figures also in the room, so lots of awkwardness.
Well, Well, I best figure out a way to spend my time then.
Well, he could always come with us. I mean, no one's saying that he couldn't.
Nope,
Go and
that's true.
help. We'll go and help Sister Francesca with something. Not sure what.
Be
but-
useful, damn it!
You know what? Tim is going to go around the whole Tricon everywhere he's allowed, and just kind of observe it, trying his best to memorize it in case it comes under attack and he needs to find vantage points or security cameras wherever they are and stuff like that.
Cool. Well, so to take Tim first, because there are, of course, many areas of the Tricon that are off limits to him, but he absolutely does get a very good idea of the layout of the place and where it would be most advantageous for him to go to in case of an attack. So yeah, and it takes a while because the Tricon is massive.
Yeah, I think he partially chose that thing to do because it's smart, and partially because it'll occupy him for a while.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Okay, so Tim, or rather Medea and Akalon, you go to pray. Is there anything specific and we need to know about this, or do we just see the characters go into the chapel and then fade to black or something?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And they shall make sweet love there.
They should make sweet. Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
The problem with that, of course, or the upside to that is, of course, that it would be Tim that got pregnant, because she would just flat out refuse.
Okay, so all right, Sister Francesca, Sister Francesca spends quite a lot of time in the library because it is extensive and there's...
It's extensive. She very quickly, I think early on, she very, very quickly figures out that if she ever lays her hands on a radical inquisitor, she's quite probably going to flay him alive herself.
I'm deeply worried about her now.
And if she, and then she's probably sitting there looking and finding something positive, a lot of positive things actually in the Emelathians. A lot of things about the Emelathians that she likes. The idea of promoting, unity within the Imperium and making sure that all the different what are they called? Imperial organizations work together appropriately and smoothly and effectively, such as, for example, the Arbites and the Inquisition, just to name two that have been brought up today. That sort of thing, which is Emelathian heartland, basically. That's what they're all about. Yes. She likes that, and then she realizes what the fuck has been going on Scintilla ever since she got here, and how this concept of cooperation has led to the Arbites doing fuck all about millions of people getting preached to in heretical manners in an entire sector. And she puts that book aside and opens the one Monodominance 101.
Oh, God.
I love it.
I'm so
She starts sitting there nodding and reading and nodding some more when she gets to, I can't remember his name, but that particular Inquisitor on the big throne. Fyodor. Yes.
Fyodor Karamazov.
Yes, exactly. She's like going, yes. And I think the smile that comes, the biggest smile comes to her face when she reaches the point where he is quoted in one of his most famous judgments as having looked upon the heretic in front of him and said very calmly, which he has said many times since, of course, but this is the first time where he leans forward and says, "A plea of innocence is guilty of wasting my time."
Oh God, this means I now need to lump poor Sister Francesca in with all those other Inquisitors and acolytes who will inevitably get sucked into the warp by Magnus the Red. Just so that all the sensible people can be left to rebuild what's left of the Inquisition afterwards.
Okay, so reading about all this, there's not going to be any tests or anything, because there's plenty
My
of
point
material.
is this gives her a reason to eventually spend some XP and buy up her, forbidden lore or forbidden knowledge Inquisition as it becomes available to her. Because this is, I think this experience has taught her that while personal ambition is a sin, indisputably, it is no sin to wish to serve the God Emperor in the most personal and efficient manner possible. And if she survives long enough, she reckons that eventually she wants to be able to give the right commands. She knows that other sisters have eventually gone down that road.
Interesting.
Cool. This is going to lead to some very interesting. The way you're going, the way I want Accolon to go, this might lead to some very interesting conflicts of belief later in the campaign.
That's going to be interesting.
That's not a bad thing. That's good role playing opportunities.
And then they can fight over who gets the children, Tim and Medea.
No.
I'm pretty sure they might want Tim. And I'm pretty sure they will be going, you take Medea. No, you fucking take Medea. I don't want that little weirdo. You take it.
Okay, so you all spend some time doing the things you've mentioned: praying, observing the Tricorn, reading up on various inquisitorial factions, and so on and so forth. And you hear and read, or somehow you acquire the knowledge that the purging of this sector that you investigated has started. And basically, it is, as was mentioned, the entire sector is doomed. Every single individual within the sector is put to the torch, so to speak. Not literally, but they are quite efficient in their killing of these millions of people. So that is underway, and as well as several houses, noble houses in the upper spires, are also raided by inquisitorial troops.
How long does this take? Before we get to this point.
Well, before you get to this point, so it's been a couple of hours before the news reaches you that it's started.
Well, it'll take a while to complete. Is what I mean.
Yes, it absolutely will. But from the time when the Inquisitor said you're free to do whatever you want, and then until you get that message that the shit started, that takes a couple of hours.
Whoa.
So that's a lot of praying for Medea.
Well, I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't have taken that long if he has other things to do.
Maybe not. That's true. That's true. But yeah, like you said...
She's not Tim, she's not that patient.
Fair enough. Like you said, Joan, it is going to take a while because there's a lot of people to...
A lot of people and a lot of places to hide, and they're probably not going to lie down and die willingly.
No. But
people have this annoying thing called self-preservation.
Yeah.
It makes your work totally hard.
Yeah.
They are making munitions in that sector, so I imagine they're going to be putting up a fight of some kind. Not that it's going to help them. But,
no. And the inquisitorial forces are quite efficient in locking down the sector. They've done this before.
Yes.
Eventually, though, you're all called into the Inquisitor once more. And I assume at least that you go to see her.
Yes. Well,
Slowly
if we're
getting used to the fact that
if we're called in there, hell yes.
slowly getting used to the fact that her said things are being sung instead.
Yeah.
Less
and
creepy the second and third time, still creepy, but less so.
yes, it's becoming routine as that can possibly get.
Well, she's good at adapting, but that was fucking weird the first time.
Yeah.
Can I also just say, while I just realised I've muted again because I'm so good at that.
No,
Stop
It's
muting.
if there's any chance between the praying and being called to see the Inquisitor again that Accolon is able to actually meet up with Sister Francesca, it won't be enough time to really help her with any of the research or to find out what she's researching and then get worried, but it'll be a case of him finally actually getting a chance to pop by and inform her that yes, he did have another vision, and basically now, and what it entailed, that where Trina was, there was the black armored skeleton that he's seen before, and that it basically decided to take out some ceremonial knife and exsanguinate.
I
Sister
guess
Francesca.
she says with a crooked smile without too much warmth in it. Very steely gaze and determination. She will say, I suppose I got a little too close.
I consider myself a faithful and dutiful servant of the God Emperor, and I have nothing. I know I have nothing to fear from your zeal and retribution, Francesca. But right now, you do scare me.
You have nothing to fear from me, Accolon. You are a good man, you are loyal, you are faithful, you are a devout man who have beheld the Emperor in a way that I can never hope to achieve. In many ways, I envy you for that. You have well, let's face it, problematic mutation for many people, and you have mastered it and turned what could be your greatest weakness into a very potent weapon in service of the Imperium. I have a great deal of respect for you as a human being. And I mean that absolutely sincerely. What we have witnessed in this case, what we have seen, is so depraved, that so insidious, that it must necessarily result in a reevaluation of some very core beliefs that I have held. There's no alternative to that. I cannot sit here and pretend what we saw didn't happen, and I can't pretend that it doesn't have very, very severe implications. I believe, Heine, out of character, how many people was it we said lived in that section? I think it was something like 5 million or something.
I don't know if we've said a specific number, but let's say 5 million. That sounds, yeah.
Yeah. So she looks at him and she says, we have, through our acts and our investigations, condemned 5 million people, of whom, in all likelihood, the vast majority are loyal or were loyal, faithful, devoted citizens of the Imperium, to death. We have done so because, as the Imperial Creed teaches us, it is better to kill 1 million innocents to ensure 1 heretic dies than to avoid, or to spare that 1 million and include the heretic in those spared. We have applied a very fundamental tenet in the Imperial Creed to what we have done. We've done so because it was the right thing to do. But I am not going to sit here and pretend that that does not have a very profound impact on me and how I see the world. I cannot sit here and be flippant while knowing that what I did cost that many people their lives. It has to mean more than that, and it does.
Yes.
I will take these 5 million lives and learn from this. It is the best I can do for those who were in fact good, loyal, faithful Imperial citizens.
Yes. I can say that I apologize if my comments led you to believe that I was being flippant over a matter as grave as this.
No,
And
I don't think you were being flippant, but I do think that you and the others, and I do ask you to please forgive me if I say something now which is going to come across as hurtful. But I do think that the rest of you look at this as all of this, the Tricorn, the Inquisition, what we are doing here. You are playing the short game, and I'm playing the long game. This is not something that we are going to be doing for the next 6 months or a year. This is something that we will be doing for the rest of our lives. That life, or those lives, may be extensive. We now have access to the best medici in the entire Calixis sector, and rejuvenation is a thing. We could conceivably live for centuries in the service of the Inquisition, providing, of course, we do not get killed in the line of duty. However, I have no plan to die in the line of duty. I plan to stay alive. That is, the Emperor has very little use for dead inquisitorial agents. And consequently, what I plan to do is to grow within this role and continue growing until one day, hopefully, I will be put in a position where I'm the one who has to make the call on whether 5 million people die or live.
may I be frank?
Absolutely. I hope you will always be.
I suppose you're right, yes. I'm looking at this in the short term, not necessarily because I don't realize that this is my life now. I do. Although I will admit sometimes a stark reminder of that can land heavy. But I grew up on a small shrine come agri-world. I'm used to the confines of a single chapel and a city square, and I'm used to color, and I'm used to festivities and programs of flagellation and going on long pilgrim walks. I am used to a life of function, a life of being told what to do, what to think, what to say, how to live my life in service to the Emperor. I am now in a position where I must take agency, even within a team
Indeed.
with a clear leader in yourself, and that is simply the way of it. You are the anchor for this group.
I am. I take that upon me. I don't try to run from it.
But because of this, I am not used to the life of stark, bloody duty that I think you've had at least some experience with within the sisterhood.
Indeed.
So if I seem a little weak at the knees at the prospect of 5 million souls, innocent or otherwise, being killed as a necessity, and I acknowledge that it is a necessity, it is purely because this is the first time I am faced with this scale of purging.
She closes the book and looks over it at Akelon and says, I sincerely hope that killing that many people for whatever reason is never going to be something you do on a whim. I should hope that never becomes the case with me either.
No.
My point is, at this time, I genuinely do not believe that there was an alternative under imperial law and under the auspices of the ecclesiarchy and of the God Emperor and of the Holy Inquisition to do anything but what has happened. I would have been deeply suspicious if the people in that sector had not been purged. I do not want for this to be something that I shrug off. But I do understand that my childhood fascination, or my not fascination, that's not what she says. My childhood belief and the vague notions I had as a novice of what heresy was as something relatively small and isolated in almost all cases, where you would cleanse the mustache twirling, vile and easily identified evil heretic would be that's gone. This has proven once and for all that is not how it works.
No,
Our very first assignment, and we come face to face with people, she says, and sighs and looks like there's a moment of pained reflection there, and she says, do you remember the look on the face of the man we pulled off the streets, the man who begged and pleaded for his life all the way up here, the street preacher that we took here, who swore, and I actually believe that he was telling the truth, that he hadn't even understood that what he was saying was heretical, because he had simply been repeating what he had been told to say. And we know for a fact that the bishop of the Cathedral of the Winged Martyr was involved on some level. He could very easily have been the person who helped these street preachers feel that, oh, but what we're saying is all right because the bishop says it's fine. The man was terrified for his life, and the moment I put my hand on his shoulder, his life was over. And I knew it was. I knew that he was dead at that moment. There was no chance whatsoever of him coming out of that alive. And yet he begged and he pleaded, and it was painful to behold. What had to be done was done. We don't do this because none of us expect this, so this is not an indictment of you. But it's just important to remember, we don't do this to be lauded for it or to be hailed as heroes for it. We do this because somebody has to do this to keep the Imperium safe. That means making really, really difficult decisions, and it means killing people, even people who we may not feel deserve it, but they have to die anyway for the greater good.
You don't need to do it. You don't need to.
I know I don't, but it had to be said anyway. I'm not indicting you. I know that you, as I said, are a good and devout and faithful man. I have a great deal of respect for you, Akelon. Please don't doubt that.
It's not, as I said, I will be frank, I'm not, what was said, what you said, is true and it needs saying, but not for my sake. As you said yourself, what has happened has changed you.
It has.
And right now, I see it in you. You need surety of direction, and although I don't know exactly what it is you're studying in here, I can make a reasonable guess.
I'm studying the sects of the Inquisition.
Yes, I thought so.
Political ideals of each of the groups.
You're studying your
believe-
future.
That is not for me to decide, but I do wish to be prepared in case that is my future. I cannot simply walk up to the Enclave and say, "Hello there, I wish to become an Inquisitor." That's not how it happens. But it is better to be prepared. And seeing as this is, let's call it my free time, I feel there are much worse ways I could spend it than studying my job.
Of course.
However, I do think, she says, and gets up because she closed the book earlier, I do think that we are past Matins, and that means it's time for prayer. Will you join me?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
I shall, as we go to it, let me tell you a little bit about Medea. I believe I've
Yes,
made
please
some
do.
progress with her.
Oh, that's excellent news. I'm glad to hear it.
I think I might humbly suggest that we fade there on the basis.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to fade.
Let's have the
While they
philosophy
walk
bits.
out of there quietly talking matters of faith rather than matters of policy.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
She'll kill. Yes.
Cool. Okay. So I think I think we'll close the book on this part of the campaign, this investigation into the heresies in the Mid-Hive, and we'll open another book next time we play.
But we are not done.
Are you not done? Why not?
Well, I mean, you could probably have hints to stuff happening in the background at least happen.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Anyway,
Yes.
I think we'll call it a session, and we'll see what happens next time we play.
Yes.
For now, though, from all of us here at, well, in the Hereticus game at least, we'll say bye for now, and we hope you'll join us next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.